Good day, everybody. My name is Ramon Buckley from WIB Construction and Safety and WIB Academy. I'm joined with Ramon Buckley, who is a registered construction health and safety manager for the SACPCMP. He will be conducting a CPD training with us this evening and assisting us to understand exactly what it is that the SACPCMP is looking for and what we need to do from our side to be well prepared for the CPD application and for the uploads when we are uploading the information onto the portal. Thanks, Ramon. You can go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you very much. Thanks for the introduction as well. So basically this presentation is prepared with the intention to simplify the approach on how to obviously complete your CPD evidence, and then obviously the record keeping, which we'll go through as well. We'll touch on during the presentation, and then obviously we will cover the different aspects that's required for registered people or registered persons to obviously ensure that they remain compliant and that the evidence that they upload obviously becomes acceptable evidence. So that's basically what we will be running through. So thank you for the introduction, Fabian. I'm going to go through to the next slide. So on the agenda, we've got an introduction, which we'll go through in terms of what we're going to cover. We're going to also go through the 4 CPD categories. The 4 CPD categories are basically, those are the areas that you need to ensure your credits or your points for over your CPD cycle, which is obviously splits up into 4 different categories. Then we'll cover the acceptable evidence. We'll go through the applicable annexures. That's also a new concept that SACPCMP introduced for this new cycle, this new cycle 2024 to 2027. So we'll obviously go through the annexures, and then we'll just go through a brief summary, basically just to get a basic overview of what we've covered during the session. So in terms of the introduction, so now minimize this for a second, sorry. So the purpose of the session is to provide clear guidance on the completion, record keeping up and uploading of CPD evidence to ensure acceptance by the SACPCMP under the construction health and safety registration categories of CHSO and CHSM, which is officer and manager. The aim is to simplify the process and ensure that registered persons remain compliant throughout the CPD cycle. So in terms of the criteria, this is extracted from the CPD policy, SACPCMP CPD policy, and it basically aims to maintain and enhance professional competence, supporting continuous growth and progression in expertise throughout a registered person's professional career. So understanding the concepts of CPD, and a lot of people fail to understand why this has been introduced. CPD is not meant to hinder a person's registration status. It's meant to actually develop you as a professional. In order for you to grow as a professional, you need to obviously exercise knowledge, and obviously that needs to be determined based on evidence that you can support. So as a registered person, you need to understand that you have specific codes of conduct that you need to uphold, and there's obviously a CPD policy in place to ensure that you do not remain stagnant in the profession of construction health and safety, that you actually progress throughout your career. So that's the intention of what the CPD framework or policy actually entails. To highlight as well, registered persons must comply with the CPD criteria applicable to the full CPD cycle. So this is very important to highlight. So out of the 4 categories, a registered person must ensure that during that CPD cycle, which is usually now 3 years, you need to ensure that out of all 4 of those categories that you are compliant over that 3-year cycle. And obviously, if you are not compliant out of one of those categories, you can be deregistered. Then going back to the reference, just extracted references from the SACPCMP Continuous Professional Development Policy. I don't know what's going on. My slide is not moving now. Sorry. Okay, now we'll cover the 4 CPD categories. So the CPD categories and required CPD credits. So I'm going to break down and give you an indication of what the categories are. So what it mentions here is that registered persons are required to undertake CPD activities in accordance with the prescripts of the CPD policy. This means that in order for registered persons to be compliant with CPD requirements, to maintain their registration. So this is very important, as I mentioned. In order to maintain your registration, you need to ensure that you complete the full CPD cycle and that all your CPD evidence and your applicable categories are all compliant once the CPD cycle is completed. So for example, we'll cover a complete CPD within a specific period, which is known as a CPD cycle, and the CPD cycle, which we know now is 3 years. Previously, it used to be 5 years. By point B, undertake CPD activities within a specific category. So those are obviously the 4 categories that you can see below, which will go more in a bit more detail. And then by point C, accumulates the required amounts of CPD credits for each category of CPD and the required cumulative total of CPD credits for the cycle. So activities for CPD will be required in the following categories. So these are the 4 categories. You've got professional practice, which is to execute their professional and technical duties throughout their working life. You've got personal development, which is ongoing development of personal qualities. You've got mentorship, which is ensuring of the sustainable development of the profession. And then you've got public policy priority issues. This is a new category that they introduced. Prior to this, there was only the first 3. Now they've introduced this last category. So this is to keep up with latest ideas, technology, and related regulations. So this is a breakdown of how the CPD credits and points are allocated, or how can I say translated in terms of the CPD requirements for the 4 categories. So what they say is registered persons are required to do 500 hours of CPD to be compliant at the end of their CPD cycle. This translates to 50 CPD credits. So 500 CPD hours translates to 50 CPD credits. The CPD credits, which must be accumulated, are as follows. So for your first category, which is professional practice, your CPD credit required there is 30 CPD credits or 300 hours. This is the bulk because this is obviously now where you need to prove that you are practicing in the actual field of construction, health, and safety. Then personal development for the next category is 5 CPD credits or 50 hours, which is also very minimal. Then you've got the third category, which is mentorship. This covers 10 CPD credits or 100 hours. And then the last one is the PPPI credits, which is 5 CPD credits and 50 hours, totaling 50 CPD credits and 500 CPD hours. So as stipulated in the CPD policy, a CPD cycle is a 3-year period from the beginning of the financial year following registration. So from the 1st of April, for example, if you registered on the 1st of April 2024, your cycle will run from the 1st of April 2024 until the end of the 31st of March on the 3rd year, which will be 2027. So that's how the CPD cycle works. So if, for example, now you are newly registered, you've registered, let's say, for example, within this year, then your cycle will start from the 1st of April 2025 until the 31st of 31st of March 2028. Now we're going to cover acceptable evidence. Now, I've highlighted the activities and acceptable evidence which is easily attainable, mostly and mainly due to the fact that there's specific activities that are out of reach and out of accessibility for some of registered people, you know. So that's why what I've done is I've actually focused on the easily attainable activities that's going to guarantee you to get within that category the points and credits that you require without having to obviously extend yourself to do unattainable and obviously, you know, inaccessible or gather inaccessible information. So the first activity I'm gonna cover on is the projects, which is using Annexure. It's actually Annexure B. They've made a mistake on their website. It's actually template Annexure B. Based on the acceptable evidence, the project profile, which is Annexure B, with durations of the projects or projects, even if the project is ongoing. So this I'm going to touch on as well as acceptable evidence. I'll show you exactly the annexure, what it looks like. So basically this in a nutshell is an indication of the project that you are working on. You're going to complete this Annexure B based on the specific requirements that's stipulated on the template. In that template, you're going to obviously complete it. And there's also, for example, a completion certificate that you can also attach if the project is completed. And I'm going to highlight this one point, very important. The evidence that you submit cannot be evidence prior to your CPD cycle. So if your CPD cycle started on the 1st of April, 2025, all evidence that you upload based on the project that you're working on must be based within that duration and period. You cannot upload evidence that is prior to your registration. So please, it's very important. Don't get confused and start going back to 2024, 2023 evidence that were not accepted. It must be current within your CPD cycle to prove that you are practicing within your CPD cycle. And then obviously this project report, you can also complete it even if the project is ongoing. It does not necessarily have to be a project report that you complete where a project is completed. It's a report that you're going to obviously do based on the project that's currently running. So if you are part of a project, then you can complete it. So going on to the next activity is training contractors. So when we're talking about training contractors, this is basically if you are a safety officer or safety manager and you've got contractors coming onto your project and you need to do induction training, you need to do, for example, orientation training, any training that you can indicate or highlight where you've trained specific contractors on your project, on your requirements, on your system, on how you want things to obviously be executed on your project, then you will obviously do attendance registers indicating the duration of the session and showing the registered person as trainer. So what I suggest and what I recommend, there's no annexure for this particular type of activity. So what you do is all your attendance registers where you've trained contractors, for example, whatever training it is, whether it's induction training, whether it's PPE requirements for the project, whether it's permit to work training that you will prepare and present to your contractors, you can use that training session with all the attendance registers where each employee signs with the date. But on the attendance register, you need to mention yourself as the registered person indicated on the attendance register, which obviously proves that you are the person who presented the training, and then you need to sign it as well. Over and above that, if your employer can provide you with an appointment letter that indicates, for example, that you had trained a specific amount of people or contractors and that you've been appointed as that specific trainer for the duration of the project. There's an appointment that they can obviously prepare for you. It's not a legal appointment. It can be a functional appointment to indicate that this individual, Mr. So-and-so, he is appointed as the trainer to train contractors on X, Y, and Z presentations or topics, etc. So that can also be used as acceptable evidence. So that's page 1 on your professional practice activities. So that's the first category that we're covering now. Going on to professional practice, continuing on to page 2, we've got site audits as the next activity. Auditing is something that most construction health and safety officers, especially seniors, and then obviously construction health and safety managers have to perform on a monthly basis, either with your subcontractors or even with yourself internally as a company. You will obviously have to audit your systems to make sure that they are compliant and your systems are up to date. The acceptable evidence is going to be a signed off site audit reports indicating duration of site visits. So this is a typical example. If you need to audit a subcontractor or you need to audit a contractor, you will have your audit schedule with your contractor, subcontractor. Once you go and conduct the audit, you're going to fill in all your relevant information on your audit cover page. You're going to fill in the duration of your audits. So if your audit is, for example, 1 full day, you mention the date and the duration on the audit reports, which is very important. So for example, you must mention on your audit report 10 hours, right? So 10 hours is equivalent to 1 CPD point, which is obviously the duration of your audits. They'll give you 1 point for that audit. And you need to make sure that you mention it in that regard on your audit report. So that's why it's very important that when you're uploading your evidence, making sure on the documentation that you're utilizing, that the evidence that you can produce in terms of your durations is mentioned on your documentation that you're going to use as your templates for your audit. So I know a lot of companies have already pre-populated templates, but there is certain areas on the reports itself where you can mention date from and date to, how long the audit was conducted, and then you can just handwrite it in there to indicate 2 days from date 25th to the 26th of October 2025 as an example, right? Then going to the next activity that we'll cover is toolbox talks. Basic and simple, straightforward. We all know what this is. You'll do an annual submission of report Annexure D. This is the next annexure that I'll cover with you guys. I'll go through with you to indicate and show you exactly how it needs to be completed. And with the number and duration of toolbox talks held with contactable references. So this Annexure D document that you need to complete as an example of what I've done, because the documents that we use as our attendance register for proof of training is not aligned with the Annexure D. So what I'll do is I'll show you exactly when I go through the annexures exactly how I had completed it to obviously attach it or upload it and for it to become acceptable evidence. Then it also mentions attendance registers indicating registered person as coordinator or speaker and duration of toolbox talks held. So what's important is the toolbox talk attendance register, once again, same like the previous one for your contractors, training of contractors, it must mention your name as the speaker or the trainer on the attendance register. Otherwise, they will not accept that as evidence. And you need to prove that you were the person presenting that particular topic on that particular day. So that's important to understand. So this is now with regards to toolbox talks. Toolbox talks, you usually do toolbox talks 15 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on how long you present. But what they usually do is they'll ask you on the Annexure D report to indicate the total number of hours that you've obviously presented, which I'll show you then. That will give you the amounts of credits that they will allocate to you. Then going on to the next activity, health and safety site induction. This is exactly as we covered on the previous one for contractors, training of contractors, health and safety site inductions. You remember, what you need to understand, what you need to remember is that you're not only going to do inductions on contractors, you're also going to do inductions on your own employees and personnel working for your company. So this is where this evidence applies. So what they mention is annual submission of reports, Annexure E, with number and duration of inductions held with contactable references, and once again, attendance registers indicating registered person as coordinator or speaker and duration of induction. I'm going to go through that Annexure E with you as well to show you exactly what the template looks like and then obviously show you how to complete it as well. So that's for the first category, professional practice. We're going to delve into the second category, which is personal development activities. The first activity I'm going to touch on is skills and other training. Acceptable evidence is certificates of attendance or completion. So with regards to skills and other training, I just want to highlight something very important. Skills and other training is skills development and other training, meaning, for example, if you've attended a training to do with supervisory management and supervisory leadership skills, that is going to fall part of skills and other training. This is not primarily related to the construction health and safety, obviously developments per se, but it's got to do with developing your own personal skills in terms of how do you manage people, how do you manage different dynamic situations. For example, maybe you can do a conflict resolution skills training. This is just an example of what that type of evidence they are looking for. And I'm going to go back to the bottom point, which is highlighted in red with the asterisks. It mentions here that the qualification institution must be accredited by the relevant ETQA. So this is important. Whatever training, whatever courses that you go for, you need to make sure that these qualifications are accredited. If they are not accredited, SACPCMP will not accept it as evidence. So please just remember that. Coming to refresher courses as the next activity, certificates of attendance or completion. So refresher courses are the courses that you do, such as your legal liabilities, your hires, your working at heights, the courses that some institutions offer that expire over 2 years. So a lot of the time, a lot of companies actually send their employees for refresher courses. Those courses all accumulate as points that gets allocated, obviously, to your CPD, to your CPD cycle. Then we're going to go to the next activity, which is mentoring and coaching. So mentoring coaching is an agreement confirmation from mentor or mentorship coaching undertaken with a record of the meeting sessions undertaken with the registered persons. So mentoring and coaching, this is where you are now a registered person, not a candidate, mentoring a candidate. There's a specific annexure as well that needs to be completed for that. I think it's Annexure F. That document is what you will utilize to ensure that when you are doing your mentoring process, you're going to follow all the relevant steps and sequences that they require, and all the evidence that needs to be included into this particular template must be included. And it says that if it is a registered professional, the CV of the mentor coach should be provided. The mentor must be a more senior personnel to the RP with more years of experience than the RP. So what's important to understand is that when you're uploading any evidence, if you're going to be doing any mentoring and coaching, the person that you are mentoring and coaching needs to be obviously least experienced than you. You cannot be coaching and mentoring somebody that has more experience than you. That is not practical. And it's happened in the past where some people have uploaded information and evidence. The person is actually much more experienced than the person that was obviously being the mentor. So that was actually not accepted as evidence. Then we're going to go through to the next activity, which is academic studies. So these academic studies are your professional qualifications. So academic studies are, for example, if you're doing any higher education and training certification or professional qualification, then what they want from you is your academic transcripts with your modules and the credits allocated. And if it's ongoing, then you need to obviously provide them with that information. And then qualification certificate if completed. So for example, if you are in the first year of your diploma, for an example, you can upload your first year's module and credits to indicate based on your transcript that you get, your academic transcript or academic statement. They will allocate you points for that. So that's something that you need to also be very mindful of. So if you are, for example, as I said, you're busy with the 3-year diploma, your first year's modules that you've completed, You will get your marks and your results. You can take that transcript, you can upload it. They will allocate you credits and points for that year if it's ongoing. If the qualification is completed, then obviously if it's completed, then you will obviously upload that certificate as evidence to indicate that you have completed the certification. And there's something that I also want to highlight that they've also mentioned recently from SACPCMP. They will not be accepting any qualifications that are not certified. So if you do any qualifications, short course, short skills training, refresher courses, academic studies, please ensure that you go and you take that transcript, you take that certificate, you get it certified, you get it authenticated, and then upload it. Because there's a lot of forgery that's going on, and what they are doing now is they don't have the resources to obviously go and verify that every certification that you've uploaded is actually authentic. So that's why they want to be certified. Then we're going to go on to the last point on personal development activities is reading of industry-related material through recognized providers, example, voluntary associations or SACPCMP platform. So this is something that I used and had access to. It was actually a free. It was like a webinar of some sorts. But basically, you go on to SACPCMP's website. You click by the CPD tab, and there's a specific section where you can complete or register for specific specific training or webinars, for example. And once you complete that session, sorry, I can call it actually a session. It's like a training session or questionnaire session. So the last one that they uploaded, which I completed, was the discussion surrounding the revised construction regulations that's under obviously consideration for promulgation. And once I completed with that, there was a few questions that I had to complete. And then after I've completed those questions, I've obviously went through all the relevant sections, completed it. And immediately after that, they allocated me a certificate. From that certificate, they then allocated immediately credits onto my CPD portal. So automatically they uploaded or allocate the points, which they gave me. I think it was about 2 hours, so they gave me 0.20 credits. So yeah, so basically, and then voluntary associations are all those that are affiliated with SACPCMP. They are registered as voluntary associations. If they have any industry related material, they are uploaded on the CPD portal, and then you can go through those relevant material. You can read through it. There'll be specific maybe questions that they will ask at the end of the session. And then after you've completed it, they'll allocate you with a certificate, and they will immediately allocate you with your CPD credits. So it's very simple, very straightforward. So in terms of personal development activities, these are the much more easily and more attainable activities where you can obviously, get the relevant CPD evidence that you require to have it uploaded. Then we're going to go on to mentorship activities. The next one, the first activity there is mentorship of registered candidates towards professional registration. This again is acceptable evidence, signed commitment and undertaken form and candidates registration certificates. Signed assessment logbook by candidates and mentor. This one and the previous one in terms of mentoring and coaching is very similar. And I think this is something where there's a lot of discrepancy because there's been some of us that have uploaded the same evidence, but it was allocated to a different category. So I think this is one point that becomes very, how can I say, it's very unclear at this stage because, as I say, there was specific instances where we've uploaded evidence, exactly the same type of evidence, but the evidence was allocated to a different category. So with the mentorship of registered candidates, you will obviously have a signed commitment that you need to undertake, which the candidates and you as the registered person will sign. And then obviously there will be an assessment and report and logbook that needs to be allocated and attached to that Annexure F, which I will go through with you after this 4 categories. We've completed the 4 categories. Then the next one, which we're going to cover, is the informal mentoring of staff on the job. So this one is informal mentoring of staff on a job. This is, for example, if you are a registered person and you've got safety officers, supervisors, you've got health and safety representatives that are on your project, all you need to do as acceptable evidence is a letter of confirmation by your employer on a company letterhead, signed by the mentor and the mentee, and a curriculum vitae of the mentee. So the person who you are mentoring on the job, whether it's a supervisor, as I said, it's a safety officer that's registered, a non-registered safety officer, a health and safety representative, they can attach their CV, they can attach this letter, which they will sign to say that this individual did informal training with me on the job for this duration and that period. That's a very simple thing, but what's important, please remember that it must be on a company letterhead. It cannot be on a self-developed document. It must be on a company letterhead where the employee, or for example, the mentee and you as the mentor, will both sign, and also needs to be signed by your human resources officer or manager. That's to verify that, yes, this individual that we are on the informal mentoring of staff, as I mentioned. Just want to minimize this, sorry. So as I mentioned, with the acceptable evidence, they will not accept a letter of confirmation that is developed by the individual or the mentor. It must be a company letterhead confirmation letter, and must be signed by the mentee, the mentor, and the HR officer or manager for the company that you are working for. Okay, so that's in terms of mentorship. Those are the 2 that you need to work on. Very easily attainable, I must say. As long as you are practicing in the industry, you are a registered person, I can guarantee you can attain these points. You've got supervisors that are working on projects that you will be doing informal training with. For example, if you do site inspections, you will go to sites. If you identify specific concerns, areas of concern, you're going to obviously coach them. You're going to address those matters with them. That's going to be your proof and form and your form of acceptable evidence to substantiate the fact that I worked with this employee, he was a supervisor, I coached him on site based on specific, for example, outcomes that you would have wanted from the supervisor. If you had identified, for example, a deviation or an area of concern, you're obviously going to address it. You're going to coach him, make sure that obviously this does not reoccur. And then that individual is obviously going to accept that as coaching, because now that is a form of coaching. And then he will obviously sign to say that, yes, the safety officer or safety manager did coach me on those particular aspects, and he will sign it as acceptable evidence. And that will apply with your health and safety representatives. If you've got health and safety reps on site, you can also do informal coaching with them and mentoring with them to obviously brush them up, educate them, grow them and develop them, and in terms of what they need to obviously look for when working in the industry, construction industry. So that's in terms of mentorship. Those are the 2 activities, as I said, which is quite easily attainable. You need 10 credits, just to highlight, you need 10 credits for this section. So if you've got 3 years and you've got, for example, 3 supervisors or 4 supervisors working with you on a project, and you've got maybe 1 health and safety representative, you've got 4 already individuals that you've mentored, you've already got 4 credits. So if you're going to, for example, every year, you can use the same individuals. If you'll be on a 3-year project, you'll have 4 times 3 will be 12 credits, which will attain 12 credits for that duration or for that cycle. Right, so that's just an example as I want to highlight with you. Okay. Then in terms of the public policy priority issues activities. So this one, once again, as I said, there's a lot of categories that are very similar in terms of the approach and how they allocate and the way that they allocate the CPD evidence. Whoever's assessing it can allocate short courses under skills and development or skills and training. But in this aspect, a short course is, for example, a course that you do relevant to your industry or line of work. So, for example, if you will be doing a lead auditor's course, if you will be doing, for example, a construction regulations training course for the first time, they will allocate that particular certificate where it indicates, as it says here, certificate of completion or competence indicating NQF credits where applicable. So obviously, if it's got NQF credits, they will obviously credit you based on the NQF credits indicated on that particular course. Okay, that's for your public policy priority issue. The next activity is workshops. So if you're going to attend any workshops, what's important to highlight is there must be a certificate of attendance or an attendance register that you sign to say that you did attend that particular workshop. Another one is any accredited conferences. So accredited conferences are those that are recognized by a relevant ETQA or recognized by SACPCMP or an SACPCMP partner. So an SACPCMP partner can be a voluntary association. They can also be considered an SACPCMP partner. So that's very important to highlight. If you're going to attend a conference that is not SACPCMP approved or accredited, it's not ETQA accredited, and it's not recognized by an SACPCMP partner, they will reject your upload. Then the fourth one is the webinars and seminars. So these are all the webinars and seminars that you can attend. You can go on to SACPCMP CPD portal. There's an area or section where you've got the tabs for CPD. You can click on it. There's specific bundles that you can purchase where you can attend online webinars where, for example, they will allocate you specific points for each seminar that you attend. Some of them are quite pricey, some of them are quite cheap. It all depends on what you obviously can afford. And if I would advise, if you want to attend these webinars and you are permanently employed by a company, you can also request from your employer if this can form part of your skills developments, which companies usually have in place as skills development programs for your company. Then they can obviously purchase those bundles on your behalf, and then you can obviously log in and you can attend those webinars. At the end, you'll get a certificate of or an attendance register that they will give to you as well. And then obviously seminars, which is obviously in-person seminars, very similar to webinars. It's just obviously related to the industry, whatever seminars they are presenting, that's related to the industry. Obviously, once again, if you attend a seminar, you need to get a certificate or an attendance register to state that you actually had attended that seminar. So for this category, you need 5 CPD points, right? So I just want to highlight that with you. And then we're going to go down to the asterisks and the highlights in red where it mentions these activities must either be SACPCMP accredited or recognized or accredited by a relevant ETQA or recognized by a SACPCMP partner. So that's very important, guys. Please, if you're going to attend any short courses, workshops, accredited conferences, webinars, seminars, if you want CPD points for them, you need to make sure that they are accredited or that it is recognized by an SACPCMP partner. All right, so that's the 4 categories, the activities, the evidence. I've given you an indication of the easiest way to attain your evidence for your uploads. Okay, so this is my CPD statement, just to give it as an example. So this is for the CPD cycle, which you can see here is from the 1st of April 2024 to the 31st of March 2027. This was my first year cycle, which you can see, which states the 1st of September 2025. So out of the 4 categories, mentorship, I've accumulated 1 credit and I required 10. So my status still mentions not complied. So I still need to accumulate another 9 more credits for the next 2-year cycle, which I will do. Because now I have an indication and I have a clear understanding of what they're looking for in terms of acceptable evidence. So that I would obviously proceed with. Then personal developments, I've attained 8 credits for that category. The requirements is 5. There they mentioned that I've complied at that status. CPPI, I've got 0.5. Required is 5, and they are not compliant for that status. And then my professional practice, which credits earned is 99.35. The required is only 30, and I am currently complied. My status is complied. So out of the 4 categories, I've got 2 that I've complied with. Now I just need to focus on the other 2 categories where I am not compliant with at this stage. So please, I just want to highlight, if you see the statement, this is just an indication of your progress in terms of where you are with your CPD cycle. Do not be alarmed if you see that you are written next to your status as not complied for all categories. You've still got the next 2 years to ensure that you do comply. And this is why we are doing the session, to ensure that you remain compliant. Okay, then in terms of the details, you can see for professional practice, which is the last category on the summary above, you'll see that I've completed 3 project reports, and out of the 3 project reports, I've accumulated 99 credits. You only need 30 credits for the whole 3-year period. So I've got 99. So I just want to highlight that if you can complete just 1 project report, you can accumulate the necessary 30 CPD credits that you require over the 3-year cycle. And I haven't established how they allocate the points in terms of the project report, but I will assume that it's based on the project duration, the project value, and your contribution on the projects. And that's how they will determine the amount of credits that they will allocate to you for that submission. So if you are part of a project that's, for example, 150 million value, you will obviously indicate the value of the project. You indicate exactly what your specific responsibilities are. I'll obviously go through that annexure with you very shortly, just to explain to you. And then from there, you will be able to upload and they will allocate you your credits. That's just an example. Then once again, for professional practice, toolbox strokes, awareness training, on the 4th line, you will see there it's written awareness training as the description of activity. And this was done on the 17th of January, and they've given me 0.35 credits. For mentorship, from my previous cycle, which I've allocated to me from 23 October 2024, they've given me 1 CPD credits, right? So when they say previous CPD cycle, the 23rd of October, I was working on a project, and this was within my current cycle, which I'm not too sure why they mentioned previous cycle, but it was in my current cycle, which is from obviously the 1st of April 2024. And my cycle ends on the 31st of March 2027. So I'm not too sure why they mentioned it or describe it in that way, in that manner. Then you've got your PPPI under description of activity. They also mention once again previous cycle, the 23rd of October 2024, they've given me 0.5 credits. That was, I will believe that this was the PPPI, that was the construction regulations that they had uploaded onto their CPD portal that I had went over. That's what they allocated me that points for 0.5. It was a webinar that they had conducted. And then on personal development, you can see here, you've got refresher courses, which they've put it as the subcategory. Working at heights, 2 credits. The next one is confined space entry, 2 credits. The next one is basic firefighting, 4 credits. So just on those 3 courses, working at heights, confined space, and basic firefighting, I accumulated 8 points out of the 5 that are required. So this is just a breakdown and an indication of how the CPD categories, subcategories, the description of the activities, and then obviously the credits that they allocate you for each evidence that you upload. Okay, then we're going to go through allocation of CPD credits. As required by the CPD policy, CPD credits will be awarded as follows. 1 CPD credit for 10 hours of CPD. So this is why I said to you, if you're going to be doing an audit, and your audit, you're going to mention on your audit report 10 hours or 20 hours. If it's 2 days, they're going to give you 1 hour. If it's 10 hours, they're going to give you 2 hours. If it's 20 hours, for example, 2 days. If an event or activity is less than 10 hours, part credits will be awarded towards that event. So that's how they allocate you 0.35 and 0.50. So that means you are not obviously doing a full 10 hours, you're doing maybe 3.5 hours or 2 hours as an example. In respect of formal qualifications or shared learning programs and unit standards registered on the NQF, the credits stipulated on the qualification will be awarded as CPD credits. So this is what I mentioned prior. If you do a qualification, your qualification has an NQF level with credits allocated to it. For example, if you have a NQF level 6 diploma and your first year, you've got, for example, your first year, you've got 120 credits. They will credit you 120 credits. That's exactly how it is, right? So don't get confused with that. It's very simple and basic, straightforward. Even your short courses, some short courses will have NQF level with the credits allocated. It will be 2 credits, 4 credits, 5 credits, whatever the credits are according to the framework on how they assess on SACCA's obviously framework that they utilize to allocate credits. Then where the duration is unclear, the CPD credits will be awarded as follows to cater for specific scenarios. So I'm not going to go too much into detail on this. I've explained to you exactly how the allocation works in terms of your hours and your CPD credits. But as an example, full day event is 1 CPD credit, 10 hours. Your half day event, 0.5, which is 5 hours, CPD credits that give you half, right? And then all the other different activities, I'm not going to highlight too much on that because that's a little bit unattainable in certain for certain people, and I don't want to make it too complicated for you. Let's just keep it simple and basic for you to get your evidence accepted. Now, the next topic we're going to touch on agenda is going to be applicable annexures. This is the Annexure B. This is the project profile report. This is the evidence that you need to use, or the form of template that you need to use for your evidence that you're going to include and complete and upload. They will not accept any other type of evidence in terms of a project profile. You need to utilize the annexures that they have supplied and provided to you as a registered person, right? So in this document, you're going to fill in your title, your name, surname, ID, SACPCMP designation, the registration number, postal address, your postal address, contact details going to be yours. The project report by section B is going to be number 1, name of project, duration is number 2 of the project, provide dates. For example, if the project is from 21st of Jan 2025 until the 28th of October 2025, you're going to put the duration in there. If the project is running over and past your CPD first year cycle or second year cycle, you will just indicate that it's from this date to that particular date. Then you will indicate type and description of the project, the total value of the project, geographical location of the project, and then your client details. So this is what I would like to highlight, please, very important. When you get onto a project as a CHSM or CHSO, it's very important, especially more focusing on the CHSOs. A lot of the time, when they complete a project, they don't have access to all the relevant information in terms of who the client representatives are that they need to indicate on the annexure report, and then obviously the duration of the project. Sometimes they don't even know the exact value of the project. So all this information, when you start a project, please, as a registered person, gain and gather this information for your Annexure B templates. So when you get onto a project, ask the relevant questions to your. It's either you can ask your discipline lead, or you can ask the site manager, construction manager. They have the information at hand, they can provide it to you. And when you do ask the information, explain to them why you're asking for the information so that they understand why you are actually requesting this type of information. And then once again, continuing, we've got the mobile number, email of the client, and list of participating organizations. For example, a typical example is on a project that I've worked on. We've got SACCA, which is obviously the scope owner. or the project owner, plant owner. Then you've got the client, which is, for example, Mekem, which was our client, and we were obviously appointed as the principal contractor. And then if we have any contractors or subcontractors working under us, we will appoint them. And then you'll have to list them in bullet points, which one is exactly what particular function or role or designation for each organization. Then you will indicate your specific role and position with a description of reporting lines. So you will mention there, for example, I'll give you an example. Let me actually go through to the example for you now. It's going to make it a lot easier. This is one that I've completed exactly as the previous template indicates. It's all the project information. You've got project, name of project, mechanical and piping works for Unit 218 shutdown. Duration of projects was July 2024 until October 2024, right? Type and description of projects, for example, partial tank replacement from carbon steel to stainless steel due to extensive corrosion, as well as the replacement of piping and structural supports. So that's the type and description of the project. The total value was 83 million rand for that particular project. Then a geographical location will be, that's exactly where it is, PDP Kruger Street, Cecil, Sekunda, Gowan, and Becky Municipality. Clients, our clients was Mekem. That's the representative's information, contact number, cell number, and email address. List of participating organizations. We've got Cecil Projects and Engineering. We've got Mekem. We've got Stefanucci Stocks Inland, which is my current employer. Then your specific role and position, appointed as a project health and safety coordinator, reporting to the project manager. Then this is very important, your full report. Which stages were you involved in? Indicate with the cross. So for construction health and safety officers, construction health and safety managers, especially as contractors, you mostly work on or involved in stages 4, 5, and 6. So I'm going to go back to this point here. On your right-hand side, I've indicated the stages outlined. So stages 1 is your project initiation and briefing. Your stages 2 is your concept and feasibility. Your stages 3 is the design and development, right? Your stages 4 is your tender documentation and procurement. So this is where now most of the time your contractors are involved in. So for example, in order for you to obviously be awarded a contract, you need to submit a tender documentation with all the relevant information to indicate that you as a company are compliant with construction requirements to execute the work in a safe manner. You need to provide that evidence to your client. Then obviously during stages of construction, stage 5, you've got construction, documentation, and management. So this here is particularly more now to do with, for example, your HSE plans that you need to obviously negotiate and agree and approve and get approved with your clients, your template that you're going to use for the project, and so forth. And then you've got section 6, which is project closeout. So those 4, 5, and 6 is usually more primarily where the construction health and safety officer and CHSMs are involved, right? Okay, so you can see on stage 4, we've mentioned here on my report, I've mentioned finalize baseline risk assessments, identify and implement precautions necessary for health and safety control, and develop a health and safety plan from information obtained from the health and safety specification, agree on a format for the health and safety file for the project, assist the project team with detailed information for health and safety cost, estimates, budgets, liaise, cooperate, and provide necessary health and safety information to the clients, and then facilitate the preparation of contract documentation related to health and safety requirements for approval and signature. So that's stage 4. You indicate exactly what was your function for stage 4. What did you actually do at that stage? If you've been involved in stages 1, 2, and 3, by all means, you can obviously include it into your report. If, for example, you are working for an engineering contractor or engineering company that's involved or has been involved in stages 1, 2, and 3. On stage 5, for example, we've got a 10-site handover meeting and clarification of project-specific requirements, facilitate and coordinate the preparation of a site-specific construction health and safety plan, attendance and participate in all project meetings, facilitate health and safety site meetings. So this is for stage 5. I'm not going to go into detail. This information will be readily available. You can obviously go through it, obviously to use it as a frame of reference when you are completing this annexure. And then lastly, stage 6, it's very brief, very short. Prepare the consolidated project health and safety file for the client, which is obviously your closeout file when you complete it with the works. And then prepare the health and safety project closeout report for the client. So that's obviously your post-mortem report that you will complete. Usually that needs to be submitted to the client, or if not, there's obviously a project client closeout report that they will ask you to complete at completion of the project that you need to be involved in and sign off. And then on that project profile, you will indicate on section 3, the project successes, and then your project failures. So you need to highlight exactly what your project successes were. For example, project achieved over 100,000 injury man-hours at a peak of 160 manpower on site on a 24-hour working shift, 6 days a week, day and night. Daily health and safety walkdowns and inspections with the client representative made a positive impact on the safety compliance, monitoring of the projects, and adequate controls of lifting operations for large components by applying safe lifting techniques. That's just an example. And then failures, turnaround of supervision due to seeking longer duration work prospects. That was one of the failures. And then leading indicators that proved the most common was the inadequate completion of the pre-task risk assessment, which resulted in a few temporary work delays. So this is just one of those particular, obviously, information that you can mention as project failures. So that's just an example on Annexure B. Then your Annexure D, which is your toolbox talks. So this is very simple, straightforward, guys. I'm going to make this very easy for you. You're going to mention on this report, title of the toolbox talk on your first row, dates of the toolbox talk, site location, duration of toolbox talk. If you're going to say, for example, 1 hour, they're going to give you 0.1 credits. So for example, if you've done 7 toolbox talks for the week or 5 toolbox talks for the week, they're going to give you half a credit, or they're going to give you 50 hours. Is it right? 50 hours, correct? Yeah. Sorry, it's going to be 5 hours. Sorry, it's 5 hours. Your 10 hours is 1 day, 50 hours, 10 hours is 1 day, 5 hours is half a day, half a credit. So for example, if you're going to be doing, for the month, you're going to be doing 20, then you're going to obviously be able to accumulate for every 1 hour. We'll have 10 will be 1, 20 will be 2 hours, as an example. Then you're going to put in the duration at the end where you've got totals. You're going to mention your total number of hours that you were involved or that you had presented the toolbox talk. And then you're going to put on the bottom full names, contact details, email, direct number, date, and signature. And what it says here, signed off by professional construction manager or professional construction project manager on the project. So on this section on the bottom, guys, please, this is not for you to complete. This information is for either the construction manager or the project manager. They do not need to be registered. That's something that I just want to highlight. They will accept evidence as long as that individual is obviously proved that they were a construction manager on your project. You can even attach an appointment letter of the construction manager to indicate that he was the construction manager for the project. All right. So it's very simple, very straightforward. If you're going to be doing toolbox talks on a weekly basis, Monday to Friday, I would recommend, please record every toolbox talk that you do. You got the template now. It's going to be available to you once this session is completed. We're going to distribute it. All you need to do, day 1, for example, today is Tuesday. You're going to indicate the title of what your toolbox talk was for today. You're going to put today's dating, which is the 28th. You're going to put the site location, which is, for example, Cecil Secunda. Duration of toolbox talk, 1 hour. They're going to give you 0.1 credits for that particular toolbox talk. For the week, you will have 5 completed. You will have your 0.50 credits, which is half a credit. Please, very important, simple, straightforward, guys. Okay. As I said, this template is going to be available at the end of the session. We will share it with all the relevant members, and you will have access to this information. Okay, going on to the next template, Annexure E. This is for reporting health and safety inductions. This is now where you're going to now obviously put your information in. It's going to be name and surname, SACPCMP designation, registration number, project name, project location. Date of site induction. Now as you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. Dates of site induction, employee name, employee surname, employee ID number, employee signature. Please, I just want to highlight something. We do not use these templates when we present inductions as a company. You can either decide for yourself if you want to include this. For an example, if you're going to be using your company template as an attendance register, and then over and above, you want the employees to sign on your Annexure E, if you would like to do it, that is up to you. That is optional. But the way I did it, and the way it was approved, even with the people that I've worked with that have uploaded the evidence, you've got a company attendance register where you've got the dates of the induction, the employee's name, surname, the employee's ID number, and the signature of the employee. All you need to do, you just need to fill in this particular annexure. You're going to mention on that section where it's got, the 4 categories for employee name, surname, ID number, employee signature. You're going to mention this induction cannot be signed off as per the format issued, as this induction was already done before the annexures were issued. It is also highly impossible for more than 100 employees to sign 2 attendance registers of proof of induction. So all you will do, you will make a little note inside your block or inside that section, that row, exactly mentioning the exact same thing, where you will obviously then attach the company's attendance register where your information as the presenter was mentioned on the induction attendance register with all the employees' information. And then you're going to get total duration of induction. So for example, if you've done a 10-hour induction or 5-hour induction or 3-hour induction, with that attendance register, with that Annexure E for that particular date, you're going to mention the number of hours that you had completed or presented the induction. So if you've done 3 inductions for a day and you split it up into 3 different induction sessions, or if you've done it over 2 days, you're going to take for that day the number of employees and you're going to say, for example, 4 hours or 5 hours, right? The next day, you're going to do the same. You're going to take 4 hours, 5 hours on the next Annexure E. So for each evidence that you're going to upload with the attendance registers, you are going to ensure that you have, for each annexure, your attendance register with the date the induction was done, okay? Then, for example, you will have a sign-off section where the project manager or the construction manager will sign. For example, his name will be there, his email, his direct number, the date, and then the signature of the construction manager or project manager. So, guys, once again, simple, straightforward. It's not rocket science. It's not complicated. You can simplify it. All you need to do is complete this document and attach the proof of attendance register with you as the presenter to highlight the fact that you presented the induction. And please make sure on the Annexure E you mention the duration of the induction. That's very important. If you don't put in a number or duration, they will not give you any points. So if it's 4 hours, you're going to mention 4 hours. All right, then Annexure F, this is the mentorship agreement. This is just a summary. I didn't obviously include the whole entire document because it's quite lengthy. This document will obviously be available to you as well. So if you are a registered person and you have a mentor, a mentee that you would like to obviously mentor, who is a candidate, you will have obviously an agreement that you will sign. There's a logbook that needs to be completed and you need to verify that particular candidate's logbook, and if they need to provide evidence, etc., for a specific duration that they are required to be candidates for, right? So this is also another Annexure F document. It's another annexure. It will be available. You will have it. Obviously, once the session is over, we will distribute it as well to all the members as well. All right. Okay, now we're going to do a brief summary. Quite extending the time a bit, yeah? Okay, so in completing the annexures, please ensure that all annexures are fully completed and included all required information. So please do not leave out information. If you don't have the information, please get the information. They will not accept any evidence if you've got partial information on your annexures. It needs to be completed in full. Carefully review each annexure before uploading. If supporting evidence is required, attach it to the annexure as part of a single scanned PDF document. So please, when you upload your evidence, it needs to be one single attachment file. It cannot be 3 different attachments onto one category or one upload. They will not accept it. It must be one particular evidence for a submission. Okay, so please, very important. It needs to be scanned in. So whatever you complete, you will type it out, print it out, whatever supporting evidence and attendance registers you have, make sure that you attach it to your annexures, scan together, and then upload. Your signatures, where documents require signatures, confirm that all relevant pages are properly signed to ensure authenticity. Please, it's important, again, signatures missing on any documents, they will not accept. If it's not signed, it's not authenticated, they will not accept it. So for your annexures, please make sure where it mentions signatures that it is, in fact, signed. Maintaining records. Keep complete records for all projects you are involved in. Please, guys, it's important. If you are on a project and you are appointed on a project, immediately get the information. Project name and location. Get the client representative and their contact details. Even if you take it down in a notebook, you can keep it and save it. Even if you send yourself an email or a WhatsApp at a later stage, you can always come back to it and use it as a reference. Get the the representative's contact details, number, and email. Get the project value. Your specific involvement, as I said, from stages 4 to 6. If you are from 1 to 6, even better, you can obviously include it. And then these records are essential for completing the Annexure B report, where many of your credits will be awarded under professional practice. So as I mentioned before, this particular category, if you complete this Annexure B report properly, you can be allocated within 3 years, one submission, you can have your full 30 credits. So please, it's very important, get the information when you are on the project. I would advise every single professional that is registered, when you get onto a project, have a laptop available, have a flash drive available, whatever evidence that you have completed as presenting toolbox talks, audits, on the day, once you complete it, after it's been signed off, scan it, have a folder readily available where you can have all your information stored. When it's time to upload, you know you've got the information in hand. A lot of the time, people have scrambled to get information because now, unfortunately, the project is over. They leave a project, they go to another company, as an example, and now they need to have all this information and they don't have it. So it's very important, guys. Toolbox talks, inductions, and audit reports. Scan and store all toolbox talks, inductions, audit reports as personal records. As I said, these documents serve as evidence for future uploads. For audit reports, be sure to record and indicate the duration of the audits. As I said, example, 2 days, they'll give you 20 hours, which is 2 credits. So please, it's very important to make sure that you mention it on your audit report. Uploading the documentation evidence can only be uploaded during the designated CPD portal window, which is open from Friday at 12 noon to Monday at 12 noon. After that, the portal will be closed for review. So this is the new approach that they have in place now. So you can do your uploads over the weekend where you keep your information on hand, upload it, log in, upload it. You will get your review the following week. I think by the Friday when the window opens again, you will have your review done, you'll have your statements, and your points allocated will reflect on your statements by the by the Friday afternoon. Okay. To prevent the loss of misplacement of your records, it is recommended that you upload your CPD evidence at least once every month. This is a recommendation. If you want to keep your CPD evidence, for example, retained so that you don't misplace it, rather gather the information, have all your annexures completed for the month, have all your supporting evidence, upload it on a monthly basis. Even better if you do it on a weekly basis, even better. So then you can be able to track your CPD statement and how much your CPD record, you can track it on a weekly basis to see where your points are standing currently, so you know exactly what you need to complete. Then your regular uploads, helping sure that your documentation remains accurate and up to date. So that's basically the presentation in a nutshell, ladies and gents. I really hope this was informative. I hope it's going to help you. As I said, the evidence, the annexure, sorry, I will also make it available. It will be shared and distributed. If there's any questions, any concerns with regards to your first submissions, please approach the senior members on the group. You can speak to me directly, WhatsApp me directly if you need some assistance, and I'm more than willing to assist. Lastly, available documentation, which documentation that will be distributed will be the CPD policy, which is very important. Please, as a registered person, please make sure you read the CPD policy so you understand the reason why CPD is so important and the intention behind it. And then lastly would be the annexure template. So the annexure templates will be distributed as well on a group, so it will be accessible to you. Please ensure that you make use of those templates. Once again, as I said, if there's any questions, any concerns, WIBC Academy is there to assist you and make sure that they can help you to get you through this process so that you do not fall behind and that you remain compliant. This is our bread and butter. And please, as a registered person, this is the only way you're going to remain a registered person if you comply with the CPD requirements. Thank you, Fabian. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ramon, for excellent presentation. Very professionally done. Much appreciated. And as Ramon has said, if you need any support or any assistance, please contact us at WIB Academy, and we are here to support you guys and get you through the process and help you sustain and maintain your CPD